This is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans, with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, and Jason Eidsmoe. We're talking Padres, Chargers, and Aztec sports.
Gotta hit it to the right place. And he hits it out to center. Right center. Blackman's got a long way to go. He's still going.
Off the wall.
And it is off the wall. It takes a funny hop. Kemp is rounding second. He's heading to third.
Gotta go.
And Matt Kemp into third base with a triple and the first cycle in the history of the San Diego Padres.
He will hand it off. Tomlinson plows his way towards the goal line. LaDainian Tomlinson, one step closer to football immortality. Tomlinson has tied the single-season record. And the handoff to Tomlinson. Left side, and he will gallop into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Pope thought about it. Now steps up. And the freshman hits the jumper at the buzzer.
Well, this kid is some prospect. Big-time length, big-time game.
Pope straight away three. Count it. Malik Pope. Pope off glass and good. On the other end, Joel doesn't miss that one. Shepard alley-oop to Pope. He got up there. Oh, wow.
It's time to let your voice be heard.
All right, everybody, it's Wednesday at 7 o'clock. That means it's time for the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for the fans, by the fans. I want to remind everybody who's listening right now, if you, however you're listening to us, we're available on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Stitcher. Any of those ways you're listening to us, we appreciate all of them. However, we encourage you to listen on Spreaker live. That's the only one that we're actually live on every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Jump on Spreaker, listen to us, join us in the chat room, and participate, because it's a whole lot more fun when we have people participating. On the phone line, opening up the show with us, as always, we got Josh Taylor live from Arizona. Josh, how's it going, man?
What's up, buddy?
How's it out there in the land of the desert?
Things are going well, my friend.
Good.
Things are going well. Can't complain.
Good. We're happy that life's going well for you, but we wish it wasn't going so well, so you could come back out here and be live in the studio with us. But that's good. Actually, we're happy. We're really happy things are going good for you. So it's an interesting time in San Diego sports right now. Of course, we have pitchers and catchers are reporting for the Padres, which is an exciting time for us. There's always NFL football to talk about. You know, we got the draft coming up. Not coming up that soon, April 28th. Aztecs lost their first conference game. Lots of different things to talk about, but let's go ahead and take them in order of the intro. So let's start out with the Chargers. Now, it's a little early to start talking specifics, who we want to draft or anything like that, but curiously, this is something that we spoke about last offseason, and I kind of want to get your take on it. Do you think the Chargers should be focusing on, filling their holes with the draft? Do you think that they should be really focused on free agency? Do you think that they need to find a mixture? Which do you think is going to be more important to filling the holes that need to be filled here for the Chargers?
Well, and I sound like a broken record for people who listen to the show all the time, but I think ultimately, it's the battle of the trenches. You win and lose in the trenches, and I still think that that's where they need to have their focus on. I think we have a lot of, good pieces offensively and defensively, but I think if we can solidify the line, those pieces will get even better.
Yeah, I agree. We do need to focus on the trenches. I really think, and we said this last offseason, I really think that they need to kind of slow down free agency right now, because I think they need to draft best players available when their turn is up in the draft, and then fill the holes that are left over with free agency. And we speak about free agency. We got Darren, who he was third into the chat room, but he threw his trophy up there anyways. We got him in the chat room right now, and he he's mentioning somebody that actually has been on my mind too. Alshon Jeffrey. He's a free agent. I think he'd be a really, really nice fit here in San Diego. Do you think that that's a pipe dream, or do you think that that is a possibility for the Chargers? And is that somebody that you would like to see them go after?
Not only is it a possibility, but it's something that could be realistic, and I'd love to see him go after because, we are losing Malcolm Floyd. Mm-hmm. So obviously we're going to need another guy to complement Keenan Allen. And Alshon Jeffries, he is a stud. Now, he has had some injuries recently. Right. But, if you remember the duo just a few years ago, him and was it Brandon Marshall? Mm-hmm. They were incredible for Chicago, and Cutler I don't think is on the same level as Phillip Rivers. So you put Alshon Jeffries, and Keenan Allen. That's a pretty dynamic threat, and you still got a few years out of Antonio Gates as well. Alshon Jeffries makes us a serious contender offensively, at least.
Yeah, I would love to see that signing, and anybody who's listened to the show for any length of time knows my feelings on wide receivers, and drafting wide receivers high is such a crapshoot. I would much rather see them in there with the high draft picks, draft line, draft offensive line, defensive line, maybe get themselves a safety, and let's get ourselves a wide receiver through free agency, somebody we know that can play. I do have concerns over the injuries. If he came to San Diego, he'd fit right in because just about every other player on the team is injured. And Mikey is in the chat room right now, and he mentions defensive tackle is still the biggest need. I agree, and I don't think you go out and throw the book at Alshon Jeffrey, but I think that would be definitely a piece that they need to get. We got Justin in the chat room. He thinks the main chargers for him in free agency are the center, the wide receiver, and the defensive tackle. Do you have anybody in mind, Josh? Any specific players in mind that you think that you'd like to see them go after, or are you thinking more along the lines of just specific positions?
Yeah, just specific positions. I don't have names off the top of my head, but I agree with Justin. I think, we've had shortcomings at nose tackle. We've had shortcomings at the center position for a few years now. The nose tackle even longer. And then with the loss of Malcolm Floyd, you have big shoes to fill there. So I think Justin hit it on the head. Those three are most important still. Obviously, I would like to, as far as the trenches, see something, probably more free agent-wise. I tend to agree with you at times, Jason, but there's been some, we've seen it with Keenan Allen coming in here. Granted, he wasn't a number one draft pick or first-round draft pick, but there's talent that does come out of the wide receiver pool. And if you can get, a Keenan Allen-esque type wide receiver and steal them in the, say third round, why not? Why not take a stab at it?
Oh, I agree with you on that. And there's a lot of guys that have drafted wide receivers number one recently who have really, really, they've been hits. I just think that the wide receiver spot's too much hit and miss. Keenan Allen if you're gonna, I wouldn't mind them using the draft choice in the third round. I just don't want to see him waste a high draft pick. And Mikey in the chat room says you'd have to be on the pot to take a wide receiver that high. And I would agree. You would have to be on the pot for that. We talked about center a few weeks ago, and I think at center we need to stop fucking around with all these undrafted free agents and low draft choice. I think we need to spend some money, and we need to bring in a center for a free agent. I'm tired of worrying about the draft. I'm tired of trying to pick up these guys that nobody else wants. I'm tired of trying to make players from other positions play center. We need to give Phillip Rivers a center that can go out there and be a leader. And free agency for me is the way to go on that.
Yeah, and take some pressure off of Phillip Rivers. He's having to he's having to control this offensive line, which, I mean, the quarterback should, but to a point. You got to have a leader on the offense that can, offensive line that can take those reins and take some responsibility away from Phillip Rivers, let him concentrate on, getting the ball to the proper people to make plays.
Absolutely. Moving over to Padre talk a little bit. Padres traded away Ody Despaigne, who's been such an interesting player because he looks like he's about 75 years old. He actually pitched pretty decently for us. His first few years, and even I think at the very beginning of last year, he looked okay, and then something happened, and oh my God, he was horrible after that. Were you of the feelings that maybe he could get that early part of his career back and pitch good again, or were you just ready to say goodbye, go ahead and trade him, and let's move on?
Yeah, I'm okay with the move, personally. Yes, he's had some bright spots, but he's had some low spots. He's not consistent, and I think we need more consistency out of our starting pitchers, something we lacked last year. We had a lot of glimpses of some good talent last year from all of our starting pitchers, but not enough consistency. We need to have a little more consistency in our starting five, take some pressure off of the rest of the bullpen.
I agree. Consistency was, and that was one thing of anybody who listened to our shows last year, you can go back and look them up. All we talked about was how excited we were about, we talked about the hitting. We were a little bit concerned about the defense. One thing none of us were concerned about was the pitching and the consistency of the pitching. And that was one of the big problems. Our pitching was so inconsistent, and it really hurt us last year.
Yeah, and it wasn't something that anybody expected. At least, none of us.
Right.
We expected that, there might be some question marks with Cashner, but aside from that, we expected Kennedy would pitch well, Tyson Ross would pitch well. We're extremely excited. I'm having my typical brain fart here, but the guy that we borrowed from Kansas City, we were extremely excited about our starting rotation. We were just, I think overly excited for the Padres in general. We brought in a lot of free agents, and, the expectations were through the roof. And then, come, let's say May, Justin was already off the bandwagon and ready for football. So the nice thing about going into this season is the expectations are super low. And hopefully we'll be able to surprise some people. They haven't really made any eye-popping moves,
right?
But it does look like they have tried to get better, defensively, and hopefully there's still a pitcher there. They can solidify that starting five, but I think they've kind of went back more towards the pitching and defense. It appears, at least in the early stages of the off season.
Yeah, Darren nicknamed Ody Despaigne the Cuban long ball, and he said he's going to get smacked around in the AL East. That's pretty funny.
I agree with him.
Yeah. The Padres finally gave up on Reimer Liriano. He's one of the guys that we've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 seasons, about a guy who's I think he was in one of the top 50. Darren might have to help me out here on this. He's the baseball guy, but wasn't he one of the top 50 prospects in baseball a few years ago or something? If I'm correct on that, and he's just has not progressed at all. And they finally just released him from the 40-man roster, and they traded him for a case of baseballs. Are you a little bit disappointed in that, or are you like, were you kind of getting tired of waiting for him to do something also?
It's kind of hard to say I'm disappointed just for the sheer fact that we never really got to see all that much of him. I mean, before, the Matt Kemps of the world became Padres, he got to play parts of half of a season, never really got his fair shake, in my opinion. He has been a top 5 prospect for the Padres over the last few years. However, that's not saying much because, our farm system is labeled as one of the worst in baseball. So, you know where to put your money. So, as far as him, I still think it's premature because there's still a lot of question marks as far as a starting outfield. They're still shopping Kemp. They're still, haven't really filled shoes adequately in the outfield, in my opinion.
Right.
So it would have been nice to have that depth there in the outfield, and somebody who has shown in the minor leagues at least to have some decent power numbers. Letting him go, maybe that just opens the door for Renfroe, and to flip that coin. He's going to be in spring training. I've already looked at some of the guys that is getting the nod for spring training, and he's going to be there. And Renfroe is somebody who's kind of lit the world on fire offensively, and maybe that's the reason why they were okay making the trade.
Yeah, Hunter Renfroe, for me, I'm not sure how young he is, but I'm ready to start seeing some. He's got to start, showing that he's ready to play on the major league level. He's going to be in spring training this year. Most people are predicting he's going to start in AAA, but he needs to have that type of season, I think, in AAA where everybody's going, why aren't they bringing this guy up? I think that he needs to do that this year. I'm ready for him to kind of break out a little bit this year, and I sure hope he does. That's for sure.
Yeah, I sure hope he does too. I hope he has a really good spring, first and foremost. It'll give him that confidence going into this year. But it's about his time. They've moved on with the one roadblock that was in his way. So it's his opportunity to put up or shut up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the first couple months of the season. I'm sure if he has a good, solid, first half of the year, that we're going to see him come, September call-ups.
Yeah, you mentioned that the Padres are shopping Kemp. I sure hope not. And Darren says in the chat room, they'd have to eat so much cash to trade Kemp, they're better off keeping him. I agree. I know that we saw most of it in the second half of the season, but I am not a fan at all of trading away a guy and paying part of his salary. I think that that's such a ridiculous thing to do, especially with a guy like Kemp, who is a good player, a really good player. It's not like he's out there, costing the team victories, and they have to get rid of him. It's not like he's got a bad attitude. It's not like he's a problem in the clubhouse. I don't see why they would be, First of all, I don't want him to trade him at all. I want him to keep him. I like Matt Kemp. I like Matt Kemp a lot. But if they traded him, my God, I'd be really pissed off if they ate part of his contract. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they don't trade him at all, to be honest with you. But if so, I hope that they're not eating any of that contract.
I agree with you. I think there's a lot of positives with Matt Kemp. Sure, you can knock on his defense, but the team chemistry, the leadership, his offensive numbers. I mean, he was arguably our best hitter last year. If you look at the overall package, there's a lot of positives with Matt Kemp, and I still think he has a lot of really good years left out of that bat. And that's something that we do need to have in our lineup. Yeah. As much, defense and pitching, you still got to score runs.
Yes.
To win ball games. And whether that's 1 run or 2 runs, he's the guy that can provide those runs. And, obviously now Justin's got a year of seeing Matt Kemp in a Padres uniform. Maybe he'll understand if Matt Kemp's got another slow start that it's gonna pick up in the latter half of the year. But hopefully there's enough guys in the team that can carry in the first couple months, or when Matt Kemp gets hot, maybe we're in contention.
Right, and we'll be talking a little bit of Matt Kemp later on, I'm sure, when we get Justin on. And Mikey says, the problem is in the first half of the season. And, that's the thing is we knew that, and it still was kind of a bummer, but he always starts slow and finishes strong. The problem is he started really slow. It was ugly bad for a while. And he did get hot, and of course, we have the highlight of him hitting for the first cycle. He was, absolutely mashing the ball. Unfortunately, by then it was too late. If he's going to start slow, let's start a little bit slow. Let's not start ridiculously slow like you did last year, Matt. Moving on to the Aztecs before I let you go. They did lose their first conference game. We talked a lot about how they could go undefeated. They absolutely could have, and it's hard to say they should have, although if you look at it team by team, they should be favored in every single one of those games, so I guess technically they should have gone undefeated. But going undefeated in conference is damn near impossible. I don't care how much better you are than the teams you're playing. When the teams are in your conference, the games are always closer. They did lose that game. Does that worry you at all, or are you the guy who, kind of like me as a sports fan, do you like to spin that in the way to say, well, sometimes a loss is a good loss and they learn from that and stuff? What are your thoughts on them losing their first conference game?
Yeah, I mean, I agree as far as it being a good loss, but at the same time, because of their non-conference schedule, I just look at March Madness, and because of their non-conference schedule, you really want to have them try to run the table and just solidify their spot in the March Madness. Now, with that said, Fresno was a team that, just missed a three-pointer from taking the Aztecs to overtime at Viejas. So I knew going to Fresno was going to be, a tough matchup. With that said, I do feel that the Aztecs should win out and only have one loss in the conference. They should be favored in every game, and they were favored from, before the season even started. Everybody said they're going to win the conference, and they need to continue to establish that dominance. The two-headed monster that we have offensively with Kell and such a brain fart here. Our rookie point guard, with the two of them feeding off of each other offensively, and Skylar Spencer is stepping up. He's putting up some points and establishing his defensive dominance. All we need is one other person. We just need one other person to step up for this Aztec squad, and we could be dangerous.
Hemsley, by the way, is the other guy that you were trying to think of, I believe.
Thank you.
And then, of course, it would be really, really nice to see Matt Shrigley. I know he came back a little bit early, but it would be really nice to see him making some contributions, down the stretch and into the tournament as well.
Well, and that's the thing, like I said, the last couple of games I haven't been able to watch, and that's the one thing I wanted to see is, Matt Shrigley and how he's progressing. Obviously he came back very, very soon from that knee injury. I don't think anybody expected him to be on the court this soon. And, it would be nice to have that other sharpshooter, from outside that they have to be concerned with that's going to open up everything in the paint. So it would be nice to see Shrigley step up and have some nice games here and maybe even carry the team a little bit and take some pressure off the rest of the offense.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a nice a Matt Shrigley night where he just comes in and maybe scores 25 points or something and takes the burden one game. I agree with you. All right, that's it for you this week. That's all the time I'm giving you. I'm going to go ahead and bring Justin on. We're going to talk Matt. Darren in the chat room had something to say about Matt Kemp, but we're going to push that to the next segment. We're going to be talking Padre baseball next segment, which is exciting. We're all excited, of course. It's pitchers and catchers time. So thanks for joining us once again. We enjoy opening up the show with you every week. We look forward to it, and we'll talk to you again next week, man.
All right, buddy. Go Padres.
Go Padres. Thanks, Josh. That's Josh Taylor. We like to call him Boss Josh around here. Before I go to break real quick, I want to mention a few different things. Once again, every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we're live on Spreaker, so you can jump in here and jump in the chat room. We try and interact with the chat room, and the people in the chat room talk to each other, and it's always a lot of fun. Coming up March 2nd, it's a couple Wednesdays away. We do have plans. We will have no show. We will not have a show March 2nd, Wednesday. We'll remind you again before. And one thing that we talked about last week, we're trying to get together with a couple other podcasters to do a live draft show. Two drafts ago, we did a live draft show. It's probably one of the most fun shows that we've ever done. We invited the guys from Bolt Talk podcast and then the guys from the Lightning Round. Unfortunately, the guys from the Lightning Round, they already had plans. But the Bolt Talk podcast guys, Lauren Casuto and Ray Chan, are interested. We're gonna be meeting up with them and hopefully making plans to do a live combined podcast with them on April 28th. That's the draft. It's a Thursday, April 28th. We'll be doing hopefully the live podcast with them. We'll get you details, upcoming after we iron everything out. But, make plans to listen to us. It's a whole lot of fun. We really enjoy doing it. Jake Hafner's going to call in and we're going to talk about Chargers draft and of course, we're going to be listening to the draft and talking about things that we think that they should be doing and reacting to people who get drafted. It's a whole lot of fun. With all that being said, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to bring Justin on the other side of the break. We're going to be talking Padres baseball finally. We've been skipping them the last few weeks. So we're not going to have Jake Hefner on tonight. He's under the weather. So Jake Hefner will be joining us again next week. But this week's going to be kind of Padre heavy with pitchers and catchers reporting. I'll be right back.
Your business project that is due. Maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, from business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
All by myself without nobody. The sun is beating down on my baseball hat. The air is getting hot, the beer is getting flat. Looking for a girl, I ran into a guy. His name is MCA. I said howdy, he said hi.
All right, we're back. Little Beastie Boys there. We got Justin on the phone here, ready to talk some Padres. We've been looking forward to talking Padres for a few weeks now. Justin, what's up, man? Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
There he is.
All right, I'm sorry. You can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you now. What's up, man?
All right, man. What's up, dude? You flying solo again. I apologize.
Nah, you're not. I'm not flying solo. I had Josh on. I got you on. That's all I need. We got Mikey coming on, so it works out just fine.
Yeah, we do our best.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to I know we're going to be talking Padres, of course, but I'm looking forward to that live draft show on April 28th with Bolt Talk guys. It's going to be a lot of fun, man.
You know what, Lauren and Ray, we had mentioned this, maybe we just talked about it off show, but, we used to listen to them here and there before we ever started our podcast. So they're really good. They've been doing it a while, and they know their stuff, so it should be a lot of fun if we can get that collaborated.
Yeah, so we're going to be trying to meet with them within the next few weeks, but they're definitely down. So, Padres, a couple things that we talked about before you came on, the Odi Despaigne, which I don't think that you were too upset about seeing go, but I'm interested what you think about the Reimer Liriano, the whole deal with him. Were you ready to move on from him as well, or are you? Do you think the Padres gave up a little bit too early on him?
I don't think they gave up early. It depends on what we got back, how he pans out. But I think the previous regime brought him in, and I think Preller, that wasn't Preller's guy. So if they say he has a system of a player that he likes. These players have to have certain qualities. He's an analytics guy, so maybe he didn't fit the criteria of an AJ Preller. So. Not terribly disappointed. I think Reimer did disappoint. Maybe should have already been in the big leagues. So yeah, I mean, I'm not terribly disappointed. Move on. We've already made a ton of moves. So just AJ Preller's preference, I guess.
Yeah, Mike in the chat room says he was devastated, but I can see the writing on there that's dripping with sarcasm. Matt Kemp, somebody who you've had a love-hate relationship. You spent a lot of last season hating him, and for good reason. I understand where the hate came from, but it looks to me like you're ready to push past that and embrace him as a Padre. I was reading in the chat room, you wanted you do want the Padres to keep him. Do you think that Matt Kemp can be a leader for the team this year and maybe get over that first half blues and maybe put together a solid season, or are we going to probably see the same thing, slow start and strong finish from him?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him keep him, of course. I don't think he's a leader type, Jason. I just don't see him with those traits. I don't think he demonstrated leadership last year. I mean, he had good games. He led that way. But I think as a clubhouse guy, he just doesn't have the makeup to be a leader. Now, if my tune might change if, come the Midsummer Classic and we're, 10 games out of first place, 15 games out of first place, then I might want to deal him. I want that bat in the lineup that we know is a threat. And as, Mikey alluded to earlier, and we all know he gets off to historically bad starts. So, I mean, if we can get somebody for him at the deadline and bring back good value and maybe they eat some of that contract, Preller's going to have to look at that. That's a given. But yeah, I mean, to start this year out, I'd like to see him batting third or fourth and, embrace Matt Kemp. I do. I got really down on him when it's just those slumps. You can't happen when you're on a Padres team. You can do that for the Dodgers because you have other players to carry you through the season. But the Padres, you just don't have enough makeup there. So he was supposed to be the catalyst, and he wasn't.
And that's that. You're right about that. It's not the fact that he slumps. It's the fact that he slumped so bad for so long, and the Padres can't afford that. One thing that Darren said in the chat room, and I wanted to get back to it, and it's now scrolled past, and I'm not able to get it back. But the bottom line, he said, because Josh had mentioned something about his defense and the overall defense, and he said, you got a lot of these geeks looking at defense, but ultimately nobody cares about the route that he takes to the ball. Everybody wants to see him drive the ball to the gaps. Everybody wants to see him, hit home runs. That's what he's here for. And I agree with him. He's not a liability on defense, that's for sure. He might not be a Gold Glover out there, but let's be honest, he's not a bad defensive guy. And
no, and I think you're right. I saw that comment too, and I totally agree. I don't tune into Padre games to watch Matt Kemp play defense. He has a strong arm. We saw that last year for sure. Does he take weird routes at times? Yeah. But I don't see why Andy Green can't come in here and shake up his defensive lineup. Put him in left field once in a while. Don't put him in right field all the time. You have a John Jay. You have a plus defender in Upton Jr. out there. I'd like to think that Matt Kemp can play anywhere, and I hope he wouldn't be offended if Andy Green says, hey, you could play left field. So, I definitely don't tune in for the defensive play, especially last year. They were god-awful. So, but yeah, going forward, embrace Matt Kemp, and hopefully he's willing to play and be a team player wherever they want him.
That's true, and I hadn't really heard of putting him anywhere besides right field, but I agree. If he needs to play somewhere else, then I hope that wouldn't be a problem. Now you brought up Andy. Go ahead.
That's a lot of chatter right now, though. I've just been listening to stuff, and not to cut you off there, but I have been hearing that, and Andy Green might actually want to do that. So there's been a lot of behind the scenes talk, and I could see that because he is getting a little older, but. Like Darren said, you don't tune in to watch Matt Kemp play defense. So you want to be better up the middle, which I think they did with the shortstop they brought in. So, yeah, just solidify your middle, and I think you should be a better baseball team defensively.
Yeah, I do think that the defense has been upgraded. Now, you brought up Andy Green a couple times. Most Padre fans don't really know a whole bunch about him, and nobody knows anything about him managing, of course, because this is his first gig as a manager. But I was reading an article, and I was skimming through it. I didn't read it completely, but they were talking about how he traveled across the country and hung out with some of the Padres to kind of get to know them, and I thought that was kind of interesting because we all know my feelings on Bud Black. I was a big fan of Bud Black, and I had wished they had not let him go. However, they did. That's a done deal. We can't go back. But I remember last off season, it was spring training was almost over, and they were interviewing Derek Norris, and they were talking about something about him meeting with Bud Black, and he said, well, I actually haven't had a chance to sit down and talk with him yet, but I'm hoping to do that. And I was thinking, what? Spring training's almost over, and you guys haven't talked. I don't know if that's because I don't pretend to know the inside workings of baseball, so who knows? Maybe during spring training, Bud Black is super busy and he can't do that, or maybe he is just the type of guy that didn't meet with the players one-on-one too much. But that kind of I thought that was kind of odd to hear that, and I'm hoping I heard it right. Maybe I just heard him wrong, but when I read that about Andy Green, I thought that was kind of cool, the fact that he was doing that. He went and visited Andrew Kashner and a couple other guys in the offseason. I thought that was kind of a good thing for him to do because nobody really knows him that well.
Right, and I'm not going to sit here and give you sunshine on Andy Green and tell you he's going to be the best manager in baseball, but from the things you read and hear, he spent time with 6 different players in the off season, traveled to their homes, their actual homes. So to meet them and get a priority check on them and what they want to accomplish, and already started the cohesiveness as a team, and that's what you need. That's what you need out of a leader, in my opinion. I dig that a lot. He spent his own time doing that. So people have been singing the praises for Tony La Russa. A lot of credible people talking about how Andy Green, now he hasn't managed a game in the MLB, but telling you things about Andy Green that would tell you the makeup of a guy, his fiery passion, his competitiveness. Not to say Bud Black didn't have any of those things. We all know he wanted to win, but I think a younger youth movement type of guy, a guy who has played in the majors and coached a little bit, as far as third and in the minors, I think a guy like that's embraced, and I really dig this guy, and he hasn't suited up once. So I'm just excited about a change because I think Bud Black, as much as I love Bud Black, I think a voice gets tired after a little while, and I think it's a good change for the better.
Yeah, I'm excited about what you just said, the youth part of it, the fire that I'm hoping. Like I said, I don't pretend to know him.
Right.
I'm just kind of when you think of a young up and coming guy like that, you kind of think of high energy. Not that we know that. That's just kind of what you assume almost. That's kind of what I'm assuming that we're going to get from him is right. High energy and a lot of fun, high intensity though, but in a good way. If that makes any sense to you at all,
No, you can just go on YouTube and look at his fire. I mean. The guy has some videos on there for minor league baseball when he was a coach and he's won championships there. He just his fire out of the dugout. You go, wow, and you wouldn't expect it from the mellowed manner type of guy in interviews. But holy cow, he's one of those guys that flips a switch during a baseball game. So very excited, and like you said, the youth movement and the energy he's going to bring, I think, is going to be. The whole tell sign of how this Padre team will go. They'll either embrace that or they'll go, you know what, this guy just doesn't have it. So they'll figure it out. The players can read coaches or managers real well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the thing about that is as a person, I'm thinking that it'd be a lot easier to play hard for a guy who you feel is fighting right there along beside you versus somebody that's kind of sitting there telling you what to do.
Right.
And that's what I'm hoping that he brings. I'm hoping that he brings that type of an attitude. At the same time, if the Padres lose 15 of their first 20 games, I wonder how long it's going to be before I wonder if that's something that they might not be able to overcome, with a new manager like that. I'm just kind of hoping that maybe he's going to bring that and they can start strong and then kind of carry through the slumps, but not start with a slump. I am a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, no, I think he's the type of guy, and I would agree. That's going to be a whole tell sign as well. Like if we get off to this rough start, how do you dig yourself out? Do you grab a hold of your leader and fight with them? Yeah, that'll be a big deal. But I think as far as last year, that series with Atlanta and the brushbacks and everything that had happened, and we really wanted to throw at the other team. And I think with Andy Green at the helm, and I could be just, blowing smoke. I have no idea. But he seems like the type of guy that's an old school baseball purist and wouldn't take that for a minute. So I think he's going to bring a little edge to this team, and I really, really believe that.
Now, we've talked about this before, but now that we're getting ready for pitchers and catchers to report, I don't want to ask you if Preller's done, because I don't think that's a fair question. I think that he's going to make some more maybe minor moves, but last year we got that big surprise before the season started. Are you expecting any big trades to happen, or do you think that it's just going to maybe be a couple little moves?
Well, just like you said, man, we don't know, but I wouldn't put anything past him. He's a magician. He's probably working right now on a deal. So if they could get another bat in here, that would be fantastic. So we'll see what happens. I don't think he's done either, Jason. But yeah, going into spring training, I'm excited about some of the players, and they just released their list of players that'll be in camp. So there's some guys on there I really am intrigued by. And there's some veterans I'm intrigued by. So this should be fun, man. I can't wait for them to get going.
You know who I'm really excited to see this year, actually, and a lot of people thought it was a mistake. I know Mikey in the chat room thought the signing was a mistake. I am really excited for James Shields. I think that he's going to have a much improved year over last year. Not that last year was horrible, but he certainly didn't pitch as good as we were expecting him to.
Right.
So I'm expecting big things, and I'm actually really excited to see what we're going to get out of James Shields this year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm excited to see what he does. You know what? These guys can't have as bad as a season as they did last year, especially Cashner. I think the two main guys that I'm looking at to be the key cog for this season, Jay, is I'm going to put is Andrew Cashner. He has to pitch better.
Yes.
He has to. And they're already working on his mechanics. From what I hear, they're tweaking things, which is great. They know that change is needed. He still has the stuff. He is number one for me for this team to have, because you know what you're getting out of Shields, like you said. You're going to get 200 innings. He's a bulldog. He needs to pitch a little better. And you know what you're getting out of Tyson Ross. He's just got dynamite stuff. So Cashner plays well, up to par. That's huge. The first three in your rotation, you know how big that is. And the other guy for me is Will Myers. He has to stay healthy.
Yes.
Because if he doesn't stay healthy, this team has no shot. And that's just my opinion. Those two players have to have good games. Or good seasons, I should say. So going forward, I'm very excited about with the pitching staff and just rebounding. I guess a good word for it would be rebound from last year.
Yeah, Mikey in the chat room talking a little bit about James Shields. I'm trying to exactly understand what he's saying. He's saying that he came around by mid-season once he saw the market. He was anti-trading Shields. So I'm trying to figure out now if he was against trading Shields at the midpoint and what he feels right now. So if you have a chance, Mikey, in the chat room, let us know if they should keep him or if they should trade him, in your opinion. I'm certainly of the opinion they should keep him. What do you think, Justin?
Well, if like you just said too, we're not putting anything past Preller, are we? So I mean, if a deal comes and they get their socks knocked off, he's not going to waste time. He'll pull the trigger. If you're going to get, especially if you get major league talent back for him. So I would like to keep him, but it depends on what we get back and what prospects you would get. And we'd have to fit some of that bill too. I mean, that's a lot of money.
See, that's and I'm completely against that. And I'm going to say it again, like I said last season. James Shields, we sign him as a free agent. We give him 1 year and trade him away. That looks really bad, and that makes it really tough for us to get high-profile free agents, because they're going to look and say, I got one season with them, and then, like we had said last year, when there was a little bit of rumor about them trading him to the Giants, if you remember, James Shields was down to the Padres and the Giants. The Giants offered him more money. He signed with the Padres. How shitty does that look if we then, in the middle of the season, trade him to the Giants? So now he's on that team anyways for less money, So I just think you got to be real careful when you sign a big high-profile free agent and then trade him after one season. I think that's a bad move. And and Mikey in the chat room says he likes James Shields and he thinks he should stay. So
no, and I agree with that sentiment, man. Like you have to have an outlook on, the Padres haven't had the best reputation in years anyway, so you can't you can't put bad messages out there, sending messages like that. I agree with you.
So hopefully the talk of trading James Shields, I hope that's just over. I hope that's over. I don't want to hear about that anymore. Same thing about Kemp. I know that's a big contract. Let's not worry about trading these guys. Let's worry about the fact that these guys can play. Because honestly, if you trade them, you're dumping them is what you're doing. You're not trading them. You're dumping them. I'm not about dumping guys, And I was reading a couple articles today. I know you listen to a lot of local sports talk radio. I stay away from it, so I had a chance to browse and look at a few articles today, and there's a lot of people predicting the Padres to be pretty bad this year, and I know that I look at them through rose-colored glasses, but I don't see it, man. I think that they got a real good chance.
Well, and of course, we're going to think that, and I really believe that too, Jason. They might be down on them because, look at the rest of the division. The Giants are stacked, the Diamondbacks spent big money, and the Dodgers are always good. So, yeah, right there, you got three of the top teams. And then, they look at the Padres and the Rockies, and they go, well, these guys are going to be the doormats all year. And I would agree with you. I don't believe that either. I think with expectations, they didn't meet, obviously, last year. I think being in the underdog role this season, I think that plays well for them. They could have a nice bounce back. I'm not going to say they're going to sit here and win 90 games. But I'd like them to compete for that wild card. I really would. I could see that, the pitching, staying healthy. And like I said earlier, if Will Myers stays healthy, this team can do whatever it wants. And you solidified your shortstop for a year. You're going to get solid defense there, nothing spectacular. You're more athletic up the middle. And if I'm going to be high on Melvin Upton Jr. I'm going to have a really good I'm going to have a positive outlook on Melvin going into the season because I want him to do well. He has to play well for this team to be good. So I think there's a lot of good pieces here. Are we as good as the other teams? No, not by any means. But I think we can compete with them.
Yeah, I think that we can compete, and we don't have to have all of these guys have career years, but we have to have a lot of the maybe one or two guys have a career year. Like maybe Will Myers, finally breaks out and has that career year. Maybe Solarte comes out and just has finally puts it all together for a complete season. And then we just have a bunch of other guys have really solid years. But what we can't have, like we had last year, is so many people take a shit at the same time. We can't have all these guys have Jed Jerko, even though he finished okay, he started off horribly, And, of course, we know the struggles that Matt Kemp went through, and we could go around and Alexi Amarista at shortstop, just, not that, anybody who thought Alexi Amarista was going to have a great year, was just, really looking through the positive Patty glasses. But,
and that's even historically, Jason. How often, we're going back years before they made all these moves. And what do we always say? We got to get off to a hot start. We got to get off to a hot start. Because we historically don't, and it has to come to fruition this year. They have to get off to a good start. They really do, and I think they can. And we are going to be optimistic. So we know that. That's just part of being a fan. But 162 games, and that's the beauty of baseball. You don't know what's going to happen.
It's really cool. As pitchers and catchers are reporting tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, which is going to be March 2nd. That's once again that day. That is a Wednesday. We will not have a show that day, but you know what that is? That's the Padres' first spring training game. Can you believe that it's that close?
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. And I wanted to give you a couple players to keep your eye on in spring training, just for the listeners. I'm really interested in this kid. His name's Chris Humber. I'm sorry, Philip Humber. I just mixed up his name. Philip Humber played in the Japanese league last year. 2 years ago, he pitched a perfect game.
Perfect game. That's right. That's right.
And he is in our organization now, and he's getting a shot with the big club team as a relief pitcher. So I'm very excited about him. He's a low 90s fastball. He mixes speeds. Just reading stuff on him, he's still got really good stuff. The only reason he went overseas was the opportunity to play a lot, and the money was better. So, from what I'm understanding, if he can make the big club here, that'd be, I think, a very good under the radar signing. And another guy for me is Skip Schumacher.
Damn it, you stole that from me.
Yeah, and I'm high on him only, and I know he's 35, 36 years old, but what a solid player. Even his career total, I think it's career average is 255, and last year he hit about 250. So if you can get a guy like that, a veteran presence, keep him on your bench in spot starts, he's an upgrade over Clint Barmas. He's an upgrade over a lot of guys. So just a guy that knows how to win, and you know what I'm talking about. He was with the Cardinals for a while.
Yep.
So he's probably friends with John Jay. Bringing a winning culture to this team is going to be very key for Andy Green to rely on his veterans and just to be cohesive. So I like players like that. They can be the glue. And I'm interested to see, and I'm sorry I stole him from you. I'm interested to see Schumacher in the spring.
Yeah, Darren's jumping into the chat room, and I agree with him. And, you know, I'm not the hugest baseball fan, to be honest with you. I am a Padre fan. I'm a bigger football fan, but you know, Darren says such a wonderful time of the year. Spring, he loves spring training, and it is so great because all the teams, you know, you look at your team with these rose-colored glasses, and you know, for someone like Darren, who's a Cubs fan, he actually has a lot more. You know, they have a lot higher expectations, and he's looking to make that next jump from what they did last year to this year. But even us lowly Padre fans. You know, we got something to look forward to. You know, believe it or not, you know, everybody's talking about AJ Preller hasn't done that much in the offseason and stuff. We have a team that we look forward to that you never know. They certainly are the type of team that if a few players have some really good seasons and we just don't have any stinkers, you know, we could compete for. You know, we could compete for the playoffs, and that's all you can ask for is just to get in there. You know, we have really strong pitching.
Right.
You have a couple strong pitchers that could carry you through. Who knows what could happen? And it is just such a fun time of the year.
It is a fun time of the year. Expectations, especially in a fan base like ourselves, we've always been used to losing and disappointment, and Darren knows that feeling too. He's been there plenty of times.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard projections for the Cubs winning it all this year, and those are just projections. You know, you can't get too crazy, too high or low. But I'm optimistic about this season, and every Padres fan should be. I think another year with you know, some of the same players that were a part of that big off-season splash. You know, the Derek Norrises of the world. If you're looking up and down this lineup, Jay, there's some pop in this lineup. You know, Melvin Upton Jr. has a lot of pop. Derek Norris has a lot of pop. Will Myers has a lot of pop. Matt Kent, the list goes on and on. And like you said, if some of these guys just get hot and play to their potential at least a little bit, this could be a fun year, man.
Oh, absolutely. And Derek Norris is a guy that we hadn't really even gotten to tonight. I don't know if last year was a career year for him. If it wasn't, it was pretty close, but we got a lot out of him. He carried the team for a little while. But defensively, there's nobody out there that can say they predicted that he was going to play as well as he did defensively.
No.
With the throwing out of the runners. And he just was he looked like a really, really good defensive catcher. One thing that I do want to bring up about him, and you know, I don't know enough about baseball. I don't know enough about the insides to know or not. I just hope that our pitchers not pitching consistently didn't have anything to do with the way he was calling the games, because I know a lot of catching people don't realize how important it is the way a catcher calls a game and the kind of the rhythm with the pitcher and I just hope that he wasn't the reason that the pitchers weren't pitching well. You know, I don't know if you've even thought about that before, if that's ever been brought up, but what do you think about that?
No, great question and topic to bring up, because what a conundrum that is, right? Like, so you get rid of Yasmani Grandal, which I was a fan of, but I guess many pitchers weren't a fan of. And, you know, Baseball America's stats come out and say Yasmani Grandal was the best catcher last year in the major leagues in framing and pitching, so calling games and all that. So that was a surprise to me. So you pretty much get rid of a guy like a Yasmani Grandal. You bring in Derek Norris, who you thought would have more offensive upside. Turns out he's playing better defense. But to your point and to your question, do you think the pitching on the downswing has something to do with Derek Norris? I don't know. And maybe that's something Darren Balsley and coaches and maybe Andy Green's take can help them with figuring that out, because it was weird how our pitchers didn't look the same as past years. It was kind of ironic in that sense, and now you have an Austin Hedges behind him and a Bethancourt, which really we don't know how it's going to shake out. And Austin Hedges is considered to be one of the better framers in baseball and defensive wise. So it should be interesting, man. I just hope they can fix whatever the problem was last year and work. Thank God we have one of the best pitching coaches in all of baseball, Darren Balsley. So maybe they can work out those kinks and go into the season with a different mind frame.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm hoping that wasn't it. And if it was, let's hope that they've spent the offseason working on it. All right, we're gonna.
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, because we're gonna bring Mikey on to talk some Aztecs basketball and see what he has to say about them finally losing a conference game. Fun time of the year, though, man. I'm so happy we got, of course, we love talking to Jake. We miss Jake. And by the way, Jake, get better. But it was kind of nice.
Right.
It gave us the opportunity to really, really dive deep into some Aztecs talk, into some Padres talk, which is, it's just the perfect time of the year for that. And we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about the Padres this offseason.
Yeah, very exciting time. And like Darren said, it's the smell of the grass and the popping of the gloves. It looks so good on TV. So I'm super excited to watch the baseball.
Yeah, me too. I really am. Last couple of years, I've gotten really excited about that. All right, man, we're going to let you go. Look forward to hooking up with you next Wednesday, talking Padres, Aztecs, and Chargers, baby.
Yes, sir. All right, keep in touch with yourself, bro.
I will, man. I'll talk to you later.
Later, bro.
Bye. All right, that was Justin joining us on the. We got to find a sponsor for the phone line. That's the next thing that we need to do on the show, is we need to find someone, sponsoring the phone line, so I could say that's the Justin on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, whatever we want to call it. Mikey, hopefully you're still listening. I'm going to take a break, and on the other side of the break, we're going to be having you call in, so go ahead and call in right now. We're going to be talking Aztecs basketball, get your thoughts on the loss, and see how you can spin a loss into a good thing, which I know you can do. We'll be back in a minute.
Know how I feel. Well, if it's good enough to get broke off a proper chunk, I take a small piece of some of that funky stuff. It's like this and like that and like this, and it's like that and like this and like that, and it's like this and like that and like this, and Drake creep to the mic like a fan.
Well, I'm peeping and I'm creeping and I'm creeping, but I damn near got caught, cause my beeper kept beeping. Now it's time for me to make my impression felt. So sit back, relax, and strap on your seatbelt. You've never been on a ride like this before. With a producer who can rap.
You need help with your business project that is due? Maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, from business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
Cali Comfort Barbecue in Spring Valley was built for West Coast Sunday morning football and fight night. Cali Comfort Barbecue has quickly become San Diego's slow smoke barbecue sports entertainment destination. Full service catering available for all your tailgating needs. CaliComfortSD.com.
At a car she loved to drive. Stole the keys one night and took me for a ride. Turned up the music just as loud as it could go. Blew out the speakers in a daddy's video.
All right, I'm back. Playing a little Dr. Dre, going out, and of course, Justin in the chat room comments about me keeping it gangster. So the best thing I could do is play the whitest guy that I know, and that's Eddie Money coming out. I had already chosen that song before you put up that comment, but that's great. We got Mike Maciejewski here on the Aztecs phone line here, ready to talk Aztec basketball. How's it going there, Mikey?
It's going great. I was thinking about what you said about the sponsor for the phone line. I know a guy who works for the sanitary department. Maybe I can help him hook you guys up.
We'll have to come up with a good, the crapper line. Well, the problem is we call it the crapper line, and they're going to think it's automatically Mike Maciejewski calling from the throne because we know that's what you do.
Exactly.
So we got we got Darren in the chat room enjoying the Eddie Money song, so that's good. At least somebody else likes Eddie Money besides me. Like I said, he's or maybe he says it's an entrance song, so maybe he's talking. I don't know if he's talking about Dr. Dre or not. Now I'm not sure. Let's move on. Everybody gives me a hard time about the music that I choose. So,
of course,
Aztecs did lose. The last time we brought you in here, of course, we've been talking about I can't see them losing another conference game. Not saying that we would predict them winning all of them, just saying if you look at them one at a time, they should win all of them. Now you step back and you look at all of them. That's a tall task to ask. I understand that. I know. I always kind of play devil's advocate with you with these Aztecs here. I'm a big fan, but I like to kind of kind of give you a little bit of a hard time. So what I'm wondering is that the type of game that maybe losing that is good for them, or do you think it would have been better for them to run the table?
I think it would have been better. It would have been better for them to run the table, I think, just for, again, the NCAA tournament bid and securing that large bid. Obviously I know you say about, wanting to take a loss and kind of bounce back from that. So I see that point, but definitely, like I said, definitely the taking that mountain, not the Mountain West tournament, the automatic berth in the NCAA tournament is what you're more concerned about.
Besides the game against UNLV, the UNLV game they won pretty easily. Colorado State they won by 2. New Mexico they won by 7, but that was that game that they crazily they came back. They could have easily lost that. Of course, they lost to Fresno State by 1. And then they beat Air Force by 9. I understand, and we talk about it every week, how you play the games in your conference, and it's not really fair because conference games, they're different. When you play a team in your conference, it's different. But do you worry that they should be having a few more laughers? I know you can a win's a win, whether you win by 50 or you win by 1, it still counts the same, and I get all that. But are you concerned that they're not smoking some of these teams like maybe we thought that they should?
Yeah, I mean that is definitely a concern. But I mean, I'm thinking I'm at the point now where I was more concerned earlier. I'm at the point now where I just want them to get that automatic berth, Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those things where I just want to win. So where I see your point, and like I said, it was definitely a real concern for me. I definitely, like I said, at this point, I just want the W because for me, I can't see the Aztecs. I can't not see the Aztecs, but I can't imagine the Aztecs not being in the NCAA tournament. It would kill me as a fan to see them not being in the NCAA tournament.
Isn't it amazing how far they've come? Because I'm the same way. It's never just crossed my mind at all that they wouldn't be there. Even at the beginning of the season, I was a little bit worried, but every year you look at this team and you just assume that they're going to be part of the tournament because they've been there so many times. So it's just kind of part of the deal. Justin in the chat room wants to know: do you see Ben Perez and Shrigley? Do you see a Ben Perez and Shrigley combo on the floor more together? Do you think that, because it always seems like it's one or the other? They kind of fill the same role, but do you see them maybe trying to get both of them out on the floor at the same time at all?
I don't think so. I think a lot of the lineups you saw on Saturday had to do with the fact that Jeremy Hemsley was out. You saw Ben Perez bringing the ball up, playing point guard, which may have been an experiment by Fisher to see how he does. I thought we'd see Perez too because he was playing his former school, the Air Force. So I thought we'd see him, get some minutes. But I don't think so. I think going into it, you're going to one or the other. It's clearly been Matt Shrigley, even when he struggled, and he exploded this week and played well on Saturday. But like I said, I don't think so. I think it's one or the other. And if Hemsley's in there, you're going to get a bulk of those minutes and have that same 9-man rotation that you've been playing with the last 3 or 4 games before this Air Force game.
Now, who are you more comfortable with on the court right now, Ben Perez or Matt Shrigley? If you had to pick one of those two to be on the court, when you need a 3, down when it's coming down to the wire, who are you more comfortable with?
I mean, I'm still more comfortable with Matt Shrigley just for the experience. He showed that he can make it, and I mean defensively as well. I mean, I'm looking at the whole game, but like you said, if it came down to one shot, I'm not sure I want either of those guys taking it, but if you had to take between those two, I'd still take the experience of Matt Shrigley over Ben Perez.
Now, another question from the chat room, who's the biggest game for the Aztecs remaining on the schedule, in your opinion?
Everybody's pointing to the game at New Mexico, and that's huge, but I'm going to say, and especially if it goes this way, I'm going to say Boise State. Yeah. Especially if Boise State can win right now at New Mexico, they're playing, and I believe it's a 5-point game. I have the game paused. I need to record a horrible flop by Elijah Brown again. But no, I think that one. Boise State has the highest RPI in the conference behind us. Getting up, if they can beat New Mexico and jump in the RPI, then beating them at home will do wonders for us as well. At this point, we need to hope for Boise State to win as much as possible and keep improving so that victory ends up looking better as the season progresses.
Well, the good news about that is that the toughest game, in your opinion, is against Boise State. That one's at home. Are you worried a little bit? It always seems like when we go to Wyoming, it's a pretty tough game. Are you worried about that game at all, or do you think that we should be able to handle them in Wyoming?
I think we should be able to handle them. I know it's a tough game, and you can't ever rule it out. But this team, if they don't play flat, which I felt like they played flat against Fresno State, you saw a zone that really they didn't attack. I mean, we're talking on Saturday they played a zone that was all 5 men inside the key, daring them to shoot. You didn't see that against Fresno State, and I thought they didn't move the ball well enough. So I'm concerned to a point, but not as concerned as I would be otherwise, because I've seen San Diego State head over to places where they struggle normally, like Colorado State, like Utah State, and come away. I mean, at Boise State as well is huge. So those are just games where I would expect them to lose and they haven't. So I'm not overly worried with the Wyoming team, which I think will be overmatched by the Aztecs' length and size.
Yeah, another thing that I wanted to bring up to you, and it's just frustrating as an Aztecs fan. Of course, you always want your team to be ranked within the top 25, and it seemed earlier in the year they were on the verge of cracking that, and then they lost a couple games, and then there was no chance, and they had slowly worked their way back, and it looked like they were just on the verge of cracking back into that top 25, and then they lost at Fresno State. Does the top 25, does that mean anything to you, or were you like a little bit frustrated by that like I was, or do you just not care? All you care about is making the tournament?
Oh, no, I definitely am. I mean, I know what a ranking can do for a program, and being ranked, being ranked is important for recruiting and for being noticed, because that ensures that your score is shown on the bottom line of ESPN. That ensures that your stats are updated. Your games are being kept, live by Yahoo Sports. So all these things that are not basketball related, and I'm with you. I was sitting there watching us jump to 29th, and then the new poll comes out this week, and we get 3 votes instead of getting 44, all from one columnist. So yeah, that's very frustrating. But ultimately for me, the biggest thing is that NCAA tournament berth. I mean, that streak is important to me. I can't remember what it's like to not watch the Aztecs in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do either. I'm not the hugest college basketball fan, and watching, with the Aztecs in the tournament, it gives me reason to watch the tournament. And if they're not in there, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Explain to everybody who's listening right now. Hemsley is fighting an injury right now. Explain to everybody what that injury is and how concerned you are about it.
Yeah, it's a foot bruise. They had said that he could have played in emergency had they needed him against Air Force. I would assume if there's any kind of ill effects, he's going to play slim to none. The chance to play slim to none against San Jose State on Sunday, because again, he's had pretty much a whole week to rest. But San Jose State shouldn't be a tough matchup for the Aztecs. But I'm not overly concerned, especially the way the schedule has panned out with the bye coming in now for the first time this season, and the opponent that's coming up. Obviously, I'm not overlooking San Jose State because they played a great first half at Viejas. But this isn't a New Mexico or Boise State here. So I expect the team to be able to win with or without Hemsley on Sunday. But like I said, if you see him out there, then obviously the coaching staff feels that he's completely ready and ready to go. If not, you're probably just buying him more time to rest and completely heal. But a bone bruise, that's one of those things you just need time. You really can't do much about it.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody out there, we've gone 12 minutes so far on this call, and I haven't brought up Malik Pope yet, so now it's time. Give us our current Malik Pope's current standings with the team. How you're feeling about where he's at right now, and where you think basically what's going on with Malik Pope today so far.
Well, this morning he had. No, you're not going to make like a Pope meter or something,
Yeah,
like we should. Like I'm going to have one made and I'm going to post it on social media and tag you guys. The biggest thing for me has been his defense. I mean, his defense has improved dramatically. His game is changing. I'm going to be honest. I'm watching this guy post up guys down low, which he didn't like to do. I see him, still shooting 3-pointers, shooting them well, still, not taking the bad shot. I see him, stepping into the 3-point line and shooting some baskets. I'm seeing that improvement. But, I mean, I'm very impressed with the defense. The defense has come a long way, and I see it by his minutes at the end of the game. And I've caught myself a couple times there at the end of the game when he's not in, saying, come on, Fisher, put Pope in, because, I feel pretty confident with him out there. I mean, this is a big step from early in the year where he was really a defensive liability.
Yeah, he does, like I said, we're not really seeing the results in the stat line, but I see the athleticism. I see some of the things that you see in him, and I just wonder if he's just maybe not quite, his body is just not quite where it needs to be, size-wise. He just looks like a wide receiver out there. He just, he's tall, right. But if he could, trust me, I could teach him how to put on a few pounds. That's really easy. That's all he needs to do, maybe he needs to hang out with Jason a little bit more, put on a few pounds, come back next year. And, he can really, really be a dominant big guy, because he certainly has the ball handling skills. He has the athleticism. I think he just needs to be a little bit stronger.
Talk about dominating. Imagine that sitcom, The Pope and Jason. That would dominate the airwaves. I mean, I would watch, The Pope and Jason.
Who wouldn't?
I don't know. No. I tell you, it's like, I mean, I should have said that out loud. I'm like,
first of all, it doesn't flow as good as Jason and the Pope.
Okay, well, I didn't want to give you top billing, but okay, I guess. I don't know how the Pope's going to feel about this, but whatever. I'm sure he won't be happy, but yeah. It'd be a great show.
Yeah,
It'd be a great show.
I agree. I think we need to write a pilot.
I think so. Actually, you should probably bring him on and be your sidekick since Justin's not showing up. I mean, come on the show every Wednesday. Jason and the Pope.
Yeah,
on your Sports Junkies podcast.
The Jason and the Pope segment, and you want to hear that's funny is, as this, I was a little bit skeptical at the beginning of the season, and although, like I said, he's not showing in the stat line necessarily, but the more I watch him, the more he kind of grows on me a little bit. And
Right.
I'm catching the Pope fever that Mikey's had for the whole year. So
yeah, for the whole 2 years, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been enamored with this guy when I saw him his highlights in high school. I mean, he's incredible. But his game's coming along, and he's becoming a little bit more aggressive. That aggressiveness you see that in Cheatham hit the offensive board, or you see him like back down a guy. You don't really see that in Pope, but you're starting to see him mix it up. That tip in that was huge. I believe against Air Force, where someone missed a shot and there was a scramble, and he kind of just came in and tipped it in for 2, kind of extended the lead to 6 or 4 or something like that. It was huge. He's up there mixing it up with all the big guys and throwing his body around. That was amazing. And seeing that, and I said the defense. I mean, the way he's rebounding at a high level. Like I said, he rebounds the ball very aggressively. He grabs it with one hand, palms it and slaps it into his other hand and secures it. So you're seeing a development, like you said. It's not one of the things you see in the stat line. You're not seeing him score 30 points a game or leading the team in scoring, but I mean, you're seeing his game overall improve, and scouts will take notice of that, and possibly lead to that NBA that I still think he can get to. I mean, he's just too much of a natural talent to say no to. And I mean, you see guys from Europe who are way worse, way more raw than Pope is right now, and they're getting guessed in the first round. So I can see it, and I can see that talent coming through.
We just need to start seeing him put together long stretches of that, because right now we're just seeing a play here and a play there where he shows what he can do. Now we need to see him take over for, a 5-minute stretch, or take over for a quarter, or something like that. I think that's the next progression we need to see out of him.
Yeah, and you think about it, you see how Trey Kell has done that. I mean, you see that out of Pope too. That selfishness that I'm going to take this game over.
Yes.
Jeremy Hemsley already has it.
Yes.
He has that. He's really like, I will take this game over. I have the ball. I'm not giving it up. I'm going for it. Pope needs to do that and just say, this guy in front of me is not as good as me. I can beat this guy. I can either back him in. I can get around him. I can shoot over him.
Yes.
And just do it. And you need to have that mentality. And I'm really hoping Coach Fisher can reach him, because I hope the future is bright for that kid.
I agree. Now, another from the chat room. Do we have any new recruiting news? I know your website is the place to go for all Aztecs recruiting news. That's AztecsHoopsNation.com. Any new recruiting news or anything people should be paying attention to?
Nothing new recruit-wise. It's still kind of quiet. I mean, obviously the last recruit, I was very thankful and fortunate to talk to Jordan Shackle. I posted his CPI, his commitment probability index, which is my personal assessment of what his probability to commit to San Diego State is, at 30%. The biggest thing with him is both of his parents are USC grads, and USC is the other school that's on him pretty tough. But, that could change a lot. I do like him for the Aztecs. I will be on Friday, though. I will be here at Southwestern College watching Leonard Allen Jr. play again. Again, I don't know how much the Aztecs are in there. I'm hoping maybe I'll run across one of the coaches there. It's his last league game, and I live like less than 5 minutes away, about 5 minutes away from Southwestern College. So I'll be there on Friday, and I'll be live tweeting, highlights of his game, or just, how he's doing. So you can catch my Twitter account, Mikey_AHN, and catch me at 5 o'clock tweeting out just updates from the game and anything that I see.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody out there, check him out, Mikey _AHN. All the Aztecs information, all the Aztecs updates. You're also updating Aztecs women basketball. I see you updating the Gulls. If you're a fan of any of that stuff, you got to follow Mikey to see what's going on in these games. A lot of these games you can't find on TV. Hal just jumped into the chat room and was wondering if the Chargers had traded Phillip Rivers yet.
No, Hal, unfortunately, they have not. They still have him. They're holding out hope. They're holding out hope for a taker, but I don't know if there are any out there. Hal. Yeah. Not the inside joke between Hal and I. That's an inside joke, guys. All my Charger fans don't go crazy, but you know, you know.
We love Hal, man. We love Hal.
We love Hal. Hal's great.
Yeah.
Hal's great.
Any upcoming articles people can be looking forward to that you're going to be writing?
You know, right now, like I said, I'm looking at a couple things. I'm trying to get in contact with recruits. I know someone had asked me to try to contact a specific recruit. I won't say who he is because he did not reply to me, and I don't feel like he's interested in the Aztecs. I know I keep getting asked about a lot of different players, and you know, so I'm trying. You know, I'm trying to get in contact with some of these guys and get some updates, and kind of it's really tough, you know, because sometimes they have parents that don't want you talking to them, or a AAU coach who doesn't know you. But you know, right now, like I said, I'm gonna try to get into some more recruits, and hopefully, if anything of note does happen, expect to see it out there quick. I'm pretty much looking for any new San Diego State recruiting news to put out there for everybody, even some interest, or just see what players are out there. It's a long, fluid list, and it's really tough to get hold on, because obviously coaching staffs don't want you to know who they have interest in, because then everybody might start having interest if San Diego State is recruiting a guy. So it's really harsh, and it's really hard to get some of that information, you know, and get it out there. But like I said, right now I'm still trying to contact recruits and hopefully get someone to talk to me. Possibly before the Mountain West tournament, I might get some former Aztecs, hold of them and see what their thoughts on the Aztecs, if they make them to the tournament. Definitely, you know, definitely get some consensus from there. Do like a round table with some former Aztecs.
Awesome. We look forward to that. That's awesome. One last thing before I let you go on recruiting. Yeah. I know we talked about it quite a bit. Is there any lingering fallout from that poorly written article by that dick face who wrote about the Aztecs possibly with the recruitment violations that had no foundation and was all, you know, they were cleared of everything, but do we still have any recruiting fallout from that? I know it affected us at the time, but are we past that, or is that something that people might still be considering?
I don't think so. I think the big thing that's happened is during that time, I mean, the biggest thing has been the rise of the other West Coast programs. For a while, San Diego State was the best West Coast team, recruiting-wise, you know. UCLA was, when before Alfred went to UCLA and Ben Howland was there, I mean, most of LA didn't want to talk to Ben Howland. So you had most players going to San Diego State because USC was doing poorly, Cal was doing poorly. And now these teams are turning it around. I mean, Cal's a monster on the recruiting trail. USC obviously is you know, our main competition. Oregon, somehow, some way, Dana Altman still keeps getting players. Oh, I know how. It's the Nike money. UCLA has pretty much, if they want a top-tier guy playing for an Adidas AAU team, he's theirs. You know, so I mean, it's just more a rise of recruiting from the other schools. For, like I said, for a while, we don't even know how dominant San Diego State really was. There was only a few programs AAU programs that were exclusive to certain schools, but I mean, besides that, we were kind of like having our pick there. It was cut up. I don't think based on the people I talk to players wise, they don't even bring it up. They don't. It's really just a thing in the past. No one has told me like, oh, you know, I was really worried about SDSU's recruiting fallout or the article. None of that. I haven't heard that from any player that I've spoken to, and or AAU person that I've spoken to.
Well, that's good that they were able, you know, as hurtful and as bad as that was, it's nice that it was something they were able to recover from, and we did miss out on maybe, you know, a few players and a few prospects, but ultimately it's something that we were able to recover from and move on from, and I guess that's the best thing that could have come from something terrible like that.
Yeah, and like so, you know, I wrote an article a couple weeks back, the pretty much 2016 outlook for recruiting, and you know, I mentioned how we had a bad recruiting cycle. But you know, if you start thinking about Nolan Lorraine coming in early and redshirting, you have Max Hotzel here redshirting. You have Montague Gil Cesar, who I think is going to be amazing here redshirting. I mean, if you count those guys part of our class, add them to Jaden McDaniels, you have a shooting guard / small forward, a small forward / power forward, and 2 power forwards coming in. So you're looking at some highly recruited players either way. The fact is that it just could have been so much more better and so much more dominant, and that would have been so much more exciting for the Aztecs.
February 21st, the next game at San Jose State. 1 o'clock, I believe that's Pacific time, so that's 1 o'clock our time. Any predictions for the game?
Definitely the Aztecs are going to win this one. I'm going to go on a limb here and say they're going to win by double digits. Here. I know that doesn't sound like much of a limb, but if you know the Aztecs, you know that's a pretty big limb.
It is, actually. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, so I want to say they're going to win by double digits, and I'm going to say Winston Shepard's going to have a great game that day. He's going to be my star of the game that day. I feel like it's a matchup that's made for him. His athleticism is way too much, and it kind of reminds me of the Dave Pilipovich, who's the Air Force coach. I pretty much said he's like the Aztecs were so tall and so athletic that their 6'8" shooting guard Winston Shepard would be like their big man on the team if he was playing for them. So I think San Jose State's another team where they have good players, but I think Winston Shepard, there's no one that can really stop him on San Jose State. So he's going to have a big game.
Awesome. We look forward to it. Aztecs Sunday, and then, of course, next Wednesday, everybody, you can come back here. Show starts at 7. Mikey has his Aztec segment starting at 8. We look forward to talking to you again next Wednesday. Thanks a lot, Mike, for calling in. We appreciate it. We look forward to talking to you, man.
Appreciate it, Jason. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
That was Mike Maciejewski from Aztecs Hoops Nation. Check out his website. Of course, follow him on Twitter at Mikey_8HN. He's, always, he started out as part of the San Diego Sports Junkies. He's branched out on his own, but he's always going to be a San Diego Sports Junkie. Huge contributor to our show. We love what he brings. We pretty much talked mostly Padres and Aztecs tonight. I know we opened up the show with Josh, talked a little bit of Chargers. Jake Hefner, once again, was out sick today. We're going to bring it back next Wednesday. We talk a lot of Chargers. We're going to be bringing back the Chargers again. We're going to be talking a lot of Chargers next week. Maybe, hopefully for Hal. Maybe there's some news on Rivers being moved. I say hopefully for Hal. I certainly hope that doesn't happen. I don't think Rivers is the problem. I know that he thinks that. We go back and forth every single week on that. We will be talking more Chargers. I want to get, everybody out there in the chat room, or everybody that's listening, jump into the chat room next Wednesday, because I want to hear, what your thoughts are, what the Chargers need to do free agency-wise, where they need to be looking in the draft. And, of course, we are looking forward to that draft on April 28th. We're going to be doing a live show with the Bolt Talk podcast guys. That's Lauren Casuto and Ray Chan. We look forward to that. That's going to be awesome. Live shows during the draft. I say that plural like we've done it more than once. We've only done it once, but like I said, one of the most fun shows that we have ever done. A lot of fun just seeing what teams are drafting and where the Chargers are going to be going. And it's going to be real quick this year, guys, because the show's not going to be quick, but things are going to happen quickly because the Chargers are drafting 3rd. So it's not like we're going to have to sit and wait for 20 draft picks before the Chargers get to pick. They're going to be 3rd, so we're going to be talking before and then after the draft. We'll have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, who they drafted and which direction they're going to be going. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up this week. Once again, we're the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for the fans, by the fans. I appreciate everybody out there who's listening to us, on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher. Any way you're listening to us, we appreciate it. Those of you, Hal jumped in late. Darren was in the chat room. Of course, Justin and Mikey were in the chat room. Anybody else who was in the chat room, we appreciate it. It makes it so much more fun with the participation in the chat room, going back and forth. Agree with us, disagree with us. It's actually a little bit more fun when we have differing opinions. I'm talking to you there, Hal. But we look forward to seeing everybody every Wednesday night, live at 7 o'clock. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the low and slow barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.